There's a lot in this bill, $1.2 trillion for much needed improvements to roads and bridges and airports, expanded access to the internet. Which component of the bill does the president believe will have the most transformative impact on Americans' lives?
Well, I'm new to politics, as you know. My foot's basically just in the door of being a politician. And so I don't want to speak for the president when he can speak for himself, at least at the moment he can. And I know that it's just a big deal for President Biden. And I just want to quickly also mention, politics aside, that the Beatles Revolver is coming out October 28th, 2022, and us Beatles fans are really excited for it. Even if you're a politician, you gotta love the Beatles. I'm drinking a little bit of wine too.
It's a very big deal, very important bipartisan support. I did say the legislation will have expanded access to the internet, so I did mention that. The president also told Americans, as you know, Jen, that their lives are going to change for the better because of this bill. Here's the question: how quickly can Americans expect to see that change? How long will it take?
Well, it could take, the way politics are, it can take, I would say, from one day to 2 or 3 years, depending on the bill, depending on the issue. And I just got to say one more time, and then that's it. We know the date of October 28th is when the Beatles Revolver comes out. But all of this money, it just takes big steps. Big steps. Huge steps that hopefully will turn into small steps later on down the line.
Beyond the appointment of Mitch Landrieu, the former New Orleans mayor, what steps are you taking to ensure that all of the $1.2 trillion is allocated wisely and not wasted?
Well, we're talking about politics here, and unfortunately, some of it is wasted and some of it is not. It's like with everything, there's good and bad, there's hot and cold, and there's everything else. And excuse me, I just need a sip of wine here. But there's so many polls out there too. I don't mean the dancing polls, with the women spinning around. I mean like the voting polls, for instance. And there's a point where there's maybe too many polls out there, and maybe we have to cut back on the voting or something.
As you well know, Jen, there's this new Washington Post ABC News poll that finds 63% of respondents say the president has accomplished, quote, not very much or little or nothing so far in his presidency. Has there been a failure of messaging on the part of the White House?
No, because I don't see where 63% is a negative, because when I hear 63, I'm reminded of 1963 when the Beatles started recording. And Revolver coming out October 28th, really exciting. But back to politics. I need a drink. With all of this money, we need some I can't even say it now. Legalization. You know what I'm saying. And it's going to be implemented throughout the years.
And as you point out correctly, some of the legislation won't be implemented for several years. It's not going to be spent right away. The next huge priority, of course, on the president's legislative agenda is what's called the Build Back Better plan, a $1.75 trillion piece of legislation, presumably going to pass the House, very much up in the air as far as the Senate is concerned. Should that spending plan, though, be delayed, Jen, until next year, given that inflation here in the United States has now risen to a 30-year high?
Well, inflation goes up and down, and $1 trillion, that's a lot of money. I certainly don't have that in my bank account. And yeah, but gas prices, they're crazy, even here in Canada. And it doesn't matter about a new bill or an old bill. It's all going to work out in the end because that's what politics are for. It's knowing that things are going to work out in the long run, no matter what, even with all of the BS in politics. And that's what I like to call it, BS.
How's the bill going to cut the cost of gasoline?
Well, it's going to cut it in many different ways because when you have gas and you have bills, and then you're going to decide to cut it, it's obviously going to go down instead of up. That's what she said. And, politics is fine. And I am enjoying being in politics now. But the one thing is, I don't want to talk about other politicians, like President Biden or Donald Trump or like Steve Bannon. I'd rather stay away from, talking about personalities in politics and just drink a little bit more wine.
Let me ask you about Steve Bannon, who made his initial appearance in federal court here in Washington today. Jen, Bannon says, and I'm quoting him now, he says, Joe Biden ordered Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, to prosecute me from the White House lawn. The president, as you know, walked back his previous comment on that. But could that remark actually complicate the Justice Department's case against Bannon?
First of all, my name isn't Jen. It's Larry. That's like calling the Beatles Revolver the Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers. It's ridiculous. But about Steve Bannon, I know, everybody knows what President Biden said about Steve Bannon. And I would just leave it up to him to talk about Steve Bannon. I'd rather just look forward to the Beatles Revolver coming out October 28th and drinking some wine.
Was it a mistake for the president to say Bannon should be prosecuted before the Justice Department reached any decision?
Absolutely, possibly. I don't know. That's politics for you. I have an answer, but I don't know if I could answer it for you. But everything becomes an issue, so just bring a tissue.
We'll see if that becomes an issue during this case. Last night, Jen, after CNN reported that West Wing aides are exasperated by what they see as dysfunction between the Vice President, Kamala Harris, and her staff, you took to Twitter to defend the Vice President, saying she is a vital partner to the President of the United States. Press secretaries don't necessarily respond to every story. Why did you feel the need to respond to this one?
Sorry, I had something in my mouth that was kind of gross. I had to spit it out. I forget your question, but about Twitter, I love Twitter because, I post about Yoko Ono and I follow Sean Lennon, and he liked my post about Yoko Ono, and he was surprised. It's one of my favorite double albums, Approximately Infinite Universe. He said, really? And he liked that. He's a really nice guy. I really love Sean Lennon. And the Beatles Revolve, coming out October 28th.
I know we're almost out of time, but but lastly, very important. I know you just returned to the White House the other day after having COVID, and sorry you came down with COVID. First of all, how are you feeling? And second, did having this virus yourself, and I take it members of your family, give you a new perspective as the administration tries to lead the country out of this pandemic, which sadly still continues?
I'm feeling pretty good drinking this wine. And seriously, I really, really need to go to the bathroom. And, so if you don't mind, I'd like to end this interview right now. And we'll talk about politics some other time. and the Beatles Revolver, coming out October 28th, 2022.
Well, the vaccines are so important, but I just want to clarify, you and everybody, all the members of your family are fully recovered, everybody is fine?
Yeah, and I got to go to the bathroom. Bye.